It was just supposed to be a quiet neighborhood. Clean lawns, morning joggers, fence-line gossip and barbecues. But then she showed up, clipboard in hand, smile sharp as broken glass. One man just wanted to be left alone. But when a power-hungry HOA president tried to control his life, down to the color of his fence and the height of his grass, he fought back, not with lawyers or fists, but with something far more dangerous: imagination. What started with a fake lion sign turned into a movement. And what happened next? Well, let's just say karma showed up. And she wasn't wearing a name tag. Liam Carter loved three things in life: quiet mornings, strong coffee, and never being told what to do. That's why he'd chosen a modest house on the edge of Evergreen Hill, a polished suburban community tucked into the forested edges of Colorado. His house wasn't fancy, but it had charm. The yard was wild but alive, his cedar fence solid but slightly faded. It was home, peaceful, private, and most importantly, it wasn't under HOA jurisdiction, or so he thought. The first knock on the glass came at 6:57 a.m. on a Tuesday. It wasn't at the door, but on the back window, a tap, 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 like a woodpecker with a badge. Liam, still half asleep and wearing flannel pajama pants, shuffled to the kitchen and squinted through the blinds. That's when he saw her. A woman in her late 50s, straight-shouldered, clipboard in hand, pacing along his fence line like she was inspecting a military base. She had that unmistakable HOA air, half suburban royalty, half underpaid mall cop. Her white sneakers were pristine. Her polo shirt was embroidered with a badge-shaped patch. Evergreen Hill Neighborhood Aesthetic Committee. What the hell? Liam opened the sliding door, stepping barefoot onto the cold patio tile. "Excuse me," he called. "Can I help you with something?" The woman turned, eyes already narrowed like she expected resistance. "Good morning. I'm Madeline Sharp, chair of the Evergreen Hill HOA. We're conducting a compliance sweep." Liam blinked. What?" "A compliance sweep. I'm noting several irregularities with your fence." She pointed her pen at a section of wood, like she was identifying a corpse. "You're on my property," Liam said flatly. Madeline gave him a tight smile. "Your property borders HOA-designated land. That makes it subject to visual continuity regulations." "That's not a thing." "It is now." Liam crossed his arms. "I'm not a member of the HOA." "Well, that's unfortunate," she said, already scribbling something. "Because your aesthetic choices affect the entire neighborhood. And your fence? It's 2 inches taller than the allowed limit. And that stain color. It's outdated. No longer approved." Liam blinked slowly. "Approved by who?" "The committee." "What committee?" She tapped the clipboard. "The one I chair." It was too early for this. The coffee machine hadn't even beeped yet. "Look," Liam said, trying to stay civil. "I bought this house specifically because it wasn't part of the HOA. I don't get your newsletters, I don't pay your fees, and I sure as hell didn't agree to any visual continuity code." Madeline's eyes hardened. "Sir, community compliance isn't optional. It's cooperative." Liam let out a humorless laugh. "You're trespassing. Please leave." She stared at him for a moment longer than necessary, then jotted one last note and turned to leave, but not before saying, "You'll be hearing from us." And he did. 3 days later, an envelope appeared in his mailbox, stamped with a gold HOA seal that looked oddly like a sheriff's badge. Inside was a notice of visual noncompliance, demanding fence height reduction, restaining within 10 business days, and a warning that failure to comply may result in formal action. Liam crumpled the letter. The next day, he spotted her again, this time behind the hedge, measuring the length of his grass with a plastic ruler. He stepped outside slowly. "Really?" he asked. "You're measuring my grass now?" She didn't look up. "Your lawn exceeds regulation height by 0.75 inches. "Regulation by who? You?" Madeline straightened, brushing off her pants like she'd been doing noble work. "We've had complaints." "From who? A squirrel?" She didn't respond. Liam sighed and rubbed his temples. "I'm Done talking. Leave my yard, now. She clicked her pen shut like it was a gun holster. The committee has already voted. If you continue to be uncooperative, we will escalate to formal legal channels. Liam narrowed his eyes. Over grass? Over noncompliance. And the atmosphere of neglect you're creating. She turned and walked away, not a speck of doubt in her stride. Liam watched her disappear down the sidewalk. For a long moment, he stood silently. The wind rustled through the pine trees. A bird chirped. Then he went inside, grabbed a notebook, and scribbled one word across the top. War. But not the shouting, arguing kind. That never worked on people like her. No. He'd fight this with something stronger than rules or paperwork. He'd fight it with imagination. That night, Liam got to work. It started with a sign. The next morning, Madeline Sharp strutted by Liam's yard precisely at 7:12 a.m., just as the sun painted the rooftops gold. She wore the same white sneakers, the same clipboard, and the same expression of righteous entitlement. What she didn't expect to see was the brand-new, bold red sign planted firmly in Liam's yard. Beware of lion. Do not approach fence without clearance. It was professionally printed, reflective letters, mounted on a treated wooden post. It looked terrifyingly official. Madeline halted mid-step. She scanned the yard. The fence was tall, solid, hard to see over. The trees rustled just enough to feel like something might be hiding. And then came the noise. Grrrl. A deep, throaty rumble, low and drawn out, vibrating through the air like thunder from beneath the earth. Madeline jumped back instinctively, clutching her clipboard to her chest. Her eyes darted to the bushes. Another growl, louder this time, and then silence. Across the street, Mrs. Elwood dropped her gardening gloves. Two teenagers on electric scooters swerved off the sidewalk and booked it toward the cul-de-sac. Even the neighborhood Labrador refused to walk past Liam's property that morning, its leash taut with protest. Liam watched it all unfold from his front porch, mug in hand, legs crossed, sunglasses on. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just nodded, slowly, like a king surveying his strange new domain. The beauty of it? There was no lion. There wasn't even a dog, just a Bluetooth speaker hidden behind the hedge, linked to Liam's phone, which now featured an app called Safari Soundboard Pro. It included 40 high-quality jungle effects, including lion roars and Dolby Surround. But the real power wasn't the sound. It was the idea. By noon, Evergreen Hill was ablaze with rumor. I heard he adopted an African rescue animal. Someone saw a cage delivered last week. My son swears he saw a tail behind the fence. Liam didn't confirm anything. He just didn't deny it. That was enough. Later that afternoon, his next-door neighbor, Mr. Greeley, cautiously approached the property line wearing hiking boots and carrying bear spray. Hey, Liam, quick question, he said, keeping a safe 10-foot distance. I saw the sign this morning. Totally cool if it's just a joke, but is it a joke? Liam sipped his coffee. I'd say it's more of a precaution. Mr. Greeley blinked. Right, okay, precaution. Got it. He backed away slowly, like Liam was about to release a jungle cat from the porch. From that moment, the neighborhood changed. Children whispered rumors at bus stops. Parents crossed the street when walking their toddlers. Even the UPS guy dropped packages 5 feet from the front door and retreated like he'd seen something move. It was glorious. But Madeline? She wasn't amused. The next morning, Liam woke up to an envelope shoved under his door. No postage, no HOA logo. Just a handwritten message. This has gone far enough. The committee demands immediate removal of the sign or further action will be taken. MS. Liam chuckled. She'd dropped the pretense now. That same afternoon, he stood on his porch watering his bonsai tree when a white Toyota sedan pulled up to the curb. 2 men stepped out, both wearing matching green vests with the county seal. Animal control, Liam set down the watering can and smiled. Showtime. The taller officer, a lanky man with a notepad and a nervous look, cleared his throat. Sir, we've received a report regarding the possible harboring of an exotic animal, specifically, a lion, on the premises. Liam gave a mock surprised blink. A lion? Wow. The second officer, a woman with a buzz cut and a clipboard, narrowed her eyes. Do you have any exotic animals on your property, sir? Liam shook his head slowly. You're welcome to check. He led them around the side gate, opened it, and gestured gallantly toward the backyard. They stepped through cautiously. And there it was, the beast in question. A 14-pound orange tabby named Winston, asleep in a sunbeam, paws twitching as he dreamed of tuna. The officers stood there for a moment. The woman jotted something down. The man muttered, "Oh, come on." Liam crossed his arms. So, are we good? She nodded. No violations, but we'll need to file this as a false report. Liam smiled. Oh, I have a good guess who filed it. Want me to spell the name? They didn't respond, but he saw the corner of the officer's mouth twitch. That evening, Liam posted a copy of the county's no-violation report on his mailbox, right next to the lion sign. Madeline stood across the street and stared at it for 15 minutes. She didn't come any closer, not that day, but Liam knew better than to think she was done. The lion had done its job, not by scaring people, but by exposing something deeper. For the first time since he moved in, Liam noticed the way his neighbors looked at each other, not with comfort or community, but with quiet suspicion. Everyone walked a little faster, doors shut a little quicker, and it wasn't the lion that scared them. It was her, Madeline Sharp, the clipboard, the citations, the HOA rules that no one remembered voting for. Liam realized this wasn't just about his fence or his lawn. This was about control. He thought about the older couple down the block who suddenly removed their wind chimes last month. The family 2 doors over who resodded their entire front yard, just days after Madeline paid them a courtesy visit. And the single mom with the blue shutters who stopped speaking to anyone after her unauthorized color palette was flagged and fined $200. Liam decided to stop playing defense. He opened his laptop, clicked into the Evergreen Hill County Public Records portal, and started searching. It didn't take long. Turns out, Madeline had filed amendments to the HOA charter 2 years prior, but none of them had been signed by a quorum. Some weren't even voted on. One document that claimed 73% resident approval had only one actual signature. Hers. Digging deeper, Liam discovered the HOA had a separate Neighborhood Aesthetics Fund, which wasn't legally reported to the homeowners. Monthly fines, contributions, and adjustments had been funneled into a private account registered under an entity called EHS Community Trust. Guess whose name was on the paperwork? Madeline Sharp, sole operator. No co-signers, no oversight. Liam sat back in his chair, stunned. This wasn't a neighborhood committee. It was a personal kingdom. That night, he sent an email, 3 actually. 1 to the county compliance office, 1 to a local HOA watchdog blog called Civic Watch, and 1 to a YouTuber named Emily Marks, known for her viral videos exposing small-town power abuse. Subject line: How I fought a lion with Bluetooth and found a dictator instead. He attached screenshots, PDFs, timestamps, even a snippet of audio he'd recorded on a whim when Madeline muttered to herself near the bushes. This neighborhood needs order. They wouldn't know discipline if it bit them in the... The next morning, Liam found something unexpected in his mailbox. A notice of immediate escalation. This time, it wasn't handwritten. It was printed, embossed, and signed by 3 HOA board members. He hadn't even known there were more than one. According to the letter, due to his continued non-compliance, provocation, and propagation of misinformation, Liam was now under neighborhood disciplinary review, a term that, as far as he could tell, didn't legally exist. But it sounded terrifying. That's when he realized something chilling. Madeline was no longer just a nuisance. She was threatened. And threatened people get reckless. That night, Liam heard footsteps outside. He quietly turned off his lights and peeked through the curtains. There, under the street lamp, stood three figures. One of them was Madeline. The others wore HOA polos, looking like underpaid mall cops on patrol. One held a clipboard, the other, a flashlight and camera. They were circling his fence. Again. Liam hit record on his phone. Then he stepped onto the porch. The group froze like kids caught sneaking back past curfew. "Evening," Liam said coolly. Madeline forced a smile. "Just doing a property recheck." "Midnight seems like an odd time for that." "You're in formal violation. We're just collecting supporting documentation." Liam leaned against the porch rail. "You know what's funny?" he said, voice steady. "I've been documenting too. Financial records, emails, HOA charters. Even tonight. You're being filmed, by the way." The two board members looked at each other. "I've already sent it to 3 agencies," Liam added. "And Civic Watch. And Emily Marks. You might know her. 2 million subscribers. Real big on fake HOAs." Madeline's face turned white. He watched her mind race behind her eyes. The clipboard trembled slightly in her hand. Liam gave one last shot across the bow. "You're not just messing with fences and grass anymore, Madeline. You're messing with civil law. You're impersonating authority. That's fraud. That's harassment. That's misuse of funds." A long silence. Then she turned without another word and walked away, her army trailing behind her. Liam stepped back inside and locked the door. His heart pounded, but not with fear, with purpose. This was no longer personal. This was war, and he was no longer alone. It started with a ping. At 6:04 a.m. the next day, Liam's phone lit up with a notification from YouTube. Emily Marks just posted, "HOA tyrant exposed. You won't believe what she did. Runtime, 13 minutes. Thumbnail, a clipboard on fire." By 8 a.m., the video had over 400,000 views. By noon, it was trending. In the video, Emily broke it all down with surgical precision, complete with screenshots Liam had provided, clips of the HOA letters, maps of the Evergreen Hills zoning limits, and even a pixelated photo of Madeline herself, pacing his fence like a suburban warden. The most damning moment: a screen recording of the county registry showing Madeline's name on a private account labeled EHS Community Trust, alongside a year's worth of questionable improvement expenses, totaling over $38,000. The comments poured in. "She's running a HOA mafia. This is exactly why I refuse to buy in an HOA neighborhood." File charges. That's wire fraud. Liam didn't reply. He didn't need to, because Evergreen Hill had just woken up. By afternoon, the neighborhood Facebook group, usually used for lost dogs and bake sale reminders, was in full revolt. Dozens of residents started posting their own HOA horror stories. One man shared a video of Madeline threatening to fine him for leaving his recycling bin out an hour past pickup. A retired teacher uploaded photos of her non-conforming potted plants, each one labeled with pink warning slips. And then came a mother of 3 who'd been threatened with eviction proceedings for painting her shutters robin's egg blue. All of it under Madeline's rule. All of it enforced by the HOA board no one remembered voting for. That night, the Evergreen Hill Town Hall reached maximum capacity for the first time in a decade. People stood outside holding copies of the YouTube video transcript, HOA letters, and in some cases, actual receipts for aesthetic penalties they'd paid, some totaling into the thousands. Liam stood in the back row, arms crossed, watching the storm unfold. At 7:05 p.m., Madeline walked into the room. She wore her signature polo shirt, clipboard in hand, chin high as if this were just another formality she could control. The murmurs turned to silence, then whispers, then tension. She cleared her throat. Good evening. I understand there has been some misinformation circulating. I'm here to clarify and— No! Someone said loudly. It was Mrs. Elwood, the 71-year-old gardening enthusiast whose wind chimes had mysteriously vanished last month. This isn't misinformation. This is truth. More voices followed. What gives you the right to fine people without authority? You lied about a vote. We want our money back. You called animal control on a fake lion. Madeline's eyes scanned the crowd, her polished smile cracking. She took a deep breath. The committee acted in the best interests of the neighborhood. Our mission has always been to maintain order and property value. Your mission, Liam interrupted, was control. All heads turned. Liam stepped forward from the back row, holding up a thick folder. These are county records, financial discrepancies, zoning violations, false citations. And this, he said, unfolding a printed screenshot, is your signature on an account you never disclosed to residents. Madeline's voice wavered. That's completely taken out of context. A voice in the crowd. So give us the context. Another. Let's vote right now. Then someone shouted, Impeach her! Applause erupted. Madeline slammed her clipboard down onto the podium. This is a witch hunt, she barked. I have given years of unpaid service, and you took thousands in fake fees, Liam said calmly. The town moderator, flustered but composed, raised her hands. Per emergency protocol, will now conduct an open vote of confidence regarding current HOA leadership. Sheets were handed out, Sharpies uncapped. Liam didn't even need to count. By the end of the night, Madeline Sharp was removed from her position by a vote of 87-2. The two, her cousin and a neighbor who admitted afterward he just didn't know what was happening. The fallout was immediate. A county audit of the HOA was launched the next morning. The HOA's bank account was frozen, pending investigation. Residents began requesting refunds. Some even threatened a class action suit. And the Evergreen Hill Facebook group changed its name to No More Clipboards. But perhaps the most poetic moment came 2 days later, when a young boy, no older than 10, posted a photo of himself standing next to Liam's sign. He held a new one in his hand, handwritten, cardboard. It read, Beware of lions, beware of lying. It went viral. Again. Liam smiled when he saw it. He knew now, this wasn't just about a petty power trip anymore. It had become something bigger. This was about people remembering they had power too. Power to say no. Power to stand together. Power to laugh in the face of tyranny. Even when that tyranny wears white sneakers and carries a clipboard. For 2 days, Madeline didn't leave her house. The windows that were once wide open with pristine white curtains drawn tight were now closed, the blinds twisted awkwardly, as if afraid of the sun. Her mailbox overflowed. The lawn, normally trimmed with ruler precision, began to grow uneven. Evergreen Hill had turned quiet. But not the kind of quiet she liked. Not the polished, over-manicured, oppressive silence she curated with her HOA clipboard and passive-aggressive newsletters. No. This quiet was heavier, charged. Like a storm had passed through and people were still waiting for the next crack of thunder. On day 3, Liam got a knock on his door. It wasn't Madeline. It was the 2 remaining board members, Greg Langley and Simone Bates, who had previously co-signed her notices of escalation. Greg looked like he hadn't slept. Simone held a file folder like it weighed 50 pounds. We need to talk, she said. Liam stepped aside. Funny. That's what I said 3 weeks ago. They sat in his kitchen, sipping black coffee. Greg was the first to speak. She didn't tell us everything, he admitted. She showed us budgets, falsified votes, said we were in the legal right. We never saw the bank statements. Simone opened the folder and slid over a copy of Madeline's recent withdrawal slips. Over $11,000 had been taken from the EHS Community Trust account over the past 6 months, listed as outreach funds, enforcement expenses, and one marked simply, Private consulting. $200. Consulting, Liam asked. Security cameras, Simone said quietly. She had them installed, hidden, pointed at 5 houses, including yours. Liam leaned back. A long, slow breath left his lungs. This was no longer just a HOA dispute. It was a privacy violation, a civil rights breach, possibly even criminal surveillance. We already reported it, Greg said, to the county and to the residents. We're dissolving the HOA, Simone added, at least until it can be rebuilt legally. Liam nodded. Good. They stood to leave. But before they reached the door, Liam called out. Did she say anything? Greg turned. Just one thing. When we confronted her. And? She said, they'll thank me one day. He gave a weak smile. Still thinks she was the hero. Liam closed the door behind them, locked it, then walked out to the porch. The air felt lighter. By the end of the week, Madeline Sharp was served. A formal cease and desist order, a demand for restitution, a possible civil suit from at least 4 households. The local paper ran a front-page headline. HOA tyrant faces legal action. Community reclaims its voice. The photo beneath showed Madeline being escorted to her SUV by 2 sheriff deputies, not handcuffed, but not smiling either. That night, someone left a small note taped to Liam's fence. It read, "For standing up when we couldn't, thank you." No signature, but it said everything. Later that same evening, Liam watched as a moving truck pulled into Madeline's driveway. 2 men loaded boxes in silence. A woman, Madeline's sister perhaps, stood at the edge of the yard, glancing nervously around as if the town itself might spit her out. Madeline never appeared. No goodbye. No apology. No fight. Just absence. A few kids rode their bikes up the street and, for the first time in weeks, didn't swerve away from Liam's fence. One even slowed down and shouted, "Hey, mister! Is the lion still there?" Liam grinned. "He's asleep. Don't wake him." The kids laughed and sped off, free, loud, alive. Liam looked at his sign, still standing tall, slightly faded from the sun, but proud in its absurdity. Beware of lion. He walked up to it, reached for the edges, then paused. He wasn't ready to take it down just yet, because the lion had done more than scare a tyrant. It had awakened a neighborhood. It had ended silence, and silence was the real predator. The sun rose differently over Evergreen Hill now. It didn't feel forced or artificial. No longer filtered through the lens of HOA-approved guidelines. It felt natural, alive. There were wind chimes again, fluttering from porches without fear of citations. Children played chalk hopscotch on sidewalks without being told their drawings violated community cleanliness. Dogs barked, lawn chairs mismatched. It was beautiful. Madeline Sharp's house sat empty. Curtains pulled, porch light off, the for sale sign planted crookedly in the yard. No one touched it. No one dared mow the grass. It stood like a monument to what once was and what the community had quietly overthrown. Liam Carter stood on his porch that morning, sipping his coffee, the lion sign still planted proudly in the grass. But now, it had a twin beside it. Beware of karma. She bites harder than any lion ever could. He didn't put his name on it. He didn't need to. People knew. That afternoon, the community hosted a neighborhood restart gathering, organized not by a board, but by a group of volunteers who'd decided it was time to rebuild together. The event was held on the public green, a place that used to host tightly controlled HOA picnics, where chairs had to be uniform, and desserts had to be nut-free, gluten-free, and HOA approved. Now, there were folding tables full of homemade food, dogs on leashes, people wearing tie-dye and sneakers, laughter. Liam almost didn't go. He'd never liked crowds. He still didn't. But when he arrived, reluctantly, slowly, he was met with smiles. A handshake from Mr. Greeley, A high five from the local teens who'd once whispered about lions in his backyard. Even Mrs. Elwood handed him a peach cobbler with a wink and said, "You gave us our porches back." The new community group gathered under a tree and discussed reworking the HOA, not as a power structure, but as a true residents association, focused on cooperation, not control. Liam declined a nomination to be on the board. "I've got enough drama just raising Winston," he joked. But when asked what advice he had for the new leadership, he paused for a long moment, then said, "Never forget, rules should protect people, not silence them. And power without accountability turns good neighbors into tyrants." The group nodded. Someone wrote it down. Weeks passed. Life moved on. But something had shifted permanently. People spoke to one another again, shared stories, gardened in view of the street. One house painted their garage door bright orange, just because they liked the color. No one stopped them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Liam walked out to his yard. The lion sign had weathered a bit, edges curled, the red fading to a rustic rose. He finally took it down. He didn't feel like he was surrendering something. He felt like he'd finished something. Later that night, as he sat at his desk drafting his next essay, Winston the cat curled in his lap. Liam wrote the opening line. "Sometimes, the loudest roar in the neighborhood doesn't come from a beast. It comes from the people who finally decide they've had enough." He stared at the sentence, smiled, saved the file, closed his laptop. Peace at last. Not because someone enforced it, but because people fought for it.